about real people who in their lives work every single day or are trying to find work and they don't have health care coverage. We cannot repeal the Affordable Care Act because that would be like throwing ice water on the American people. And with that, I yield.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about this question of will promises made be promises kept. It was a recurring question that was asked by our colleagues on the other side of the aisle when we were in the majority. Sometimes it made me uncomfortable because it's a legitimate question, and we had to be judged according to our deeds and whether they matched our promises. But there's this rules process that is underway as we speak on the health care bill. There's three issues that have come up. Number one, the fiscal issue. The Congressional Budget Office has said that this legislation will increase the deficit by $230 billion. And the Congressional Budget Office is the neutral arbiter. And we either, both sides, go by the CBO estimates, or we just say we're going to play this game without a referee, and we're going to make up whatever numbers suit our political agenda. That is absolutely wrong. We cannot afford to add $230 billion to the deficit. My colleagues on the Republican side agree with us on the Democratic side that we cannot do that. It's irresponsible to do it. And this legislation that repeals health care will add $230 billion to the deficit. Secondly, there's this question of the open process. As the member from Maryland said, if we're going to have an open process, there has to be an opportunity for you, for the member from Colorado, for every member of this body to be able to offer their amendments, yes or no, on whether we should continue protection to folks so they can get coverage, whether they have a pre-existing condition or not. Right now, the law is you have cancer, you can go out and buy insurance. Right now, the law is if you have a son or daughter getting out of college or getting out of high school, going into the labor force, they can stay on your policy. Right now, the law is if you have a mom or dad who's on Medicare and they're trying to get preventive care, they can get it for free. Right now, the law is that if you have diabetes, you have cancer, you have a serious long-term medical condition, there's no lifetime cap to cover the medical care that you need. The repeal legislation would take away from every single American who now enjoys those insurance protections. It would take it away from them suddenly, abruptly, and with nothing to replace it. That's not right. Now, this is real, by the way. Congresswoman Edwards gave a couple of stories, and we all have them, in all of the districts, including those who are advocating for repeal. I spoke to Donna Watts, who's from Plainfield, Vermont. She works in Burlington, Vermont, with 20 other employees. 4 of those people that she works with, along with her, now have their children on their health care policies. Her son got out of high school, got a $10 an hour job, and it came without health care, as most entry-level jobs do. And the worst happened. He had a car crash, $20,000 in medical bills. Those are still largely unpaid, and this family takes seriously their obligation to pay their bills. They didn't have insurance. With the passage of the legislation last year on health care reform, Donna Watts was able to put her son, still uninsured, on her insurance. And she is asking me, Peter, does this really mean, if we repeal health care, that my son loses insurance? And the answer is yes. That's not right. We do not need to do this. And it raises the other question. If this is not got a political agenda attached to it, we've gone from a campaign to governing. And the majority did a great job in the campaign and beat us up pretty good and have the majority now. But with that, of course, comes the responsibility of governing in a responsible way. And if you're acting responsibly, when you see a problem, you fix it. You don't abolish everything. It's not, you don't abolish a banking system in order to correct the problems in the financial world. You don't abolish all of the good things in this health care bill to deal with the things that need to be addressed. So this is a very, very serious decision that's being made. It's going to be a template for the future of this 112th Congress. Are we going to actually deal with fiscal discipline, even when that's inconvenient with our political agenda? And the answer to that for the American people has to be yes. Are we going to protect the progress that we've made that benefits all of our constituents when it comes to these insurance reforms? And are we going to have an open process on this body so that those of us who have different points of view are going to have an opportunity for an up or down vote? And by the way, that's not about giving us the opportunity to present our amendments. That's about letting our constituents know where we stand, because at the end of the day, that's the only basis upon which they can decide whether to send us back here or send us packing. At this time, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize the gentleman from North Carolina, Representative Price.
I thank the gentleman for yielding and also for engaging in this dialogue with other members about the challenge that we're facing to reduce this country's deficit spending and reduce the accumulating debt, and at the same time to make certain that quality, affordable health care are available to all of our citizens. And as the gentleman has pointed out very, very ably, those two challenges are intricately related. In fact, one of the main reasons for supporting health insurance reform is because we simply must reduce our deficit spending and must reduce this country's debt. One of the main contributors to our country's escalating debt is the kind of escalating of health care costs that we've seen in recent years. It's one of the greatest threats to families, to businesses, to the overall economy. Health care has become the fastest growing component of the federal budget, as the gentleman well knows. Last year, health care accounted for 17.3% of GDP. That's more than twice the average of other developed nations. Now, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act corrects the failures of the current system without compromising the many strengths that we know that it has. And so it's very disconcerting here in this first week of the new Congress to see our Republican colleagues not only going after the protections in the health care law, but also almost immediately abandoning their commitment to fiscal discipline. Now, the figures that I saw this morning show that the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan arbiter of budget decisions for this body, the Congressional Budget Office has said that the repeal of health insurance reform, as proposed by the Republicans, would cost the federal budget $230 billion over the next 10 years. That's a revised estimate, I understand, even greater than was earlier thought. That is an astounding figure. Our Republican friends have made a big show out of their commitment to deficit reduction, but they've made an exception. They've clearly made an exception for the repeal of health insurance reform. So not only is this bad health care, not only would it, for example, say to families who only now are being able to insure their children with pre-existing conditions, no, we're going to go back to the old way, where the insurance companies can deny coverage to your children. What about those families that now are able to include their 24, 25-year-olds on their family policies? No, they're saying go back to the old way, where that wasn't possible. What about our Medicare recipients who finally are going to get some relief from these uncovered drug expenses, the so-called donut hole? They're saying, oh no, you're going to have to once again pay those full expenses. So it's certainly bad policy in terms of health care. But then to add insult to injury, adding $230 billion to this country's debt burden over the next 10 years is, and to do that without batting an eye, without any kind of recognition that this has an impact on the budget deficit, that's just almost unbelievable that the Republicans would be so audacious as to propose this in the first week of this new Congress. And then to add another insult to the injury, they're violating their very own pledge of openness in the way this is going to be considered. I'm sure the gentleman's been watching, as I have, the Rules Committee all day today. It's astounding. Yesterday there was this commitment to open rules, to open debate, to the offering of amendments. Today they're saying we're going to shut it down. It's an up or down vote. Maybe we'll get around later to some of these other questions, some of the repair aspect of repeal and repair. But right now we're just going to repeal it and let the chips fall. That is horrible procedure. It's a shutting down of this Congress before we even start. It's horrible budget policy. It's horrible health policy. It's a very, very bad way to start this Congress. And I appreciate the gentleman for calling us together tonight to talk about this, because we need to talk about it. We need to think about it. We need to fight it in every way we can.
Thank you very much, Mr. Price. Recognize the gentleman again from Colorado.
Well, and I'd say to my friend from North Carolina, he was talking about the fact that seniors will see this donut hole, their prescription drug prices go back up, the cost to go back up. But even, I think, more worrisome than that is the fact that under the Affordable Care Act, those same seniors receive $250. In my district in Colorado, the suburbs of Denver, 31,000 seniors received $250 this past fall as assistance to payment of their prescription drugs. Even with that, we still save the $230 billion that you were talking about. But when they repeal this, when the Republicans repeal this in kind of a all-or-nothing situation, do those seniors have to pay that $250 back, each of them? I don't know. I think they ought to be worried about that. And that's why this is such an extreme measure. They're taking away freedoms that belong to the people, belong to Americans. They're doing it in a radical and ideological way when they said during the campaign, you know, let's put people back to work, let's not spend too much money. They're spending more, they're taking away freedoms, and I'm concerned that those seniors are going to have to pay that $250 back per senior, and the seniors should be concerned as well. This is a radical act, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Price. We've got to fight it. I hate fighting these battles right out of the box, but if they're going to take these kinds of radical positions, we have no choice. And with that, I yield to my friend from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer.
Thank you. I appreciate the gentleman's courtesy for permitting me to speak, as I appreciate my colleagues coming to the floor to spotlight something that each and every American needs to be deeply concerned about. What is ironic, because I listened, for example, for the last 4 years as a member of the Budget Committee, to my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Ryan, talk about the skyrocketing problem of escalating entitlement under Medicare. Absolutely right. There are 79 million of the geezer baby boomers like me who are going to start collecting Medicare. 10,000 a day starting this week and continuing for 19 years. And because of the development of more improvements in health care, not only are there more of us, but we're going to want more complex and expensive care. My Republican friends were talking about an entitlement crisis. The irony was, and we all heard it on the campaign trail, they talked about slashing Medicare, which they want to repeal starting next week. A great deal of irony. As the independent scorekeeper, the Congressional Budget Office, has pointed out, and you have repeated on the House floor, the legislation will in fact save several billion dollars, but more important than that, it puts in place reforms that will further reduce entitlement spending. I come from a part of the country, and I know my good friend from Vermont is well familiar with the the Dartmouth Atlas, dealing with healthcare disparities around the country. One of the problems we have is that Medicare needs to be reformed. That is what we started in this legislation. And they're relatively modest steps, but they're going to save a couple $100 billion. We need to do more. Rather than repealing these reforms, like stopping unnecessary hospital readmissions, just that item costs over $12 billion a year. These reforms could enable us to bend the cost curve. If everybody practiced medicine the way it's practiced in metropolitan Portland, Oregon, which is half the price of McAllen, Texas, or Miami, Florida, there wouldn't be an entitlement crisis for decades to come. I appreciate my colleagues focusing on the hypocrisy and the recklessness of trying to repeal health care reform that makes a difference for 32 million uninsured Americans, that provides more benefit for the seniors with their prescription drugs. But most important and underappreciated is that it would reform Medicare so that instead of driving us off a cliff over the next 20 years, it would in fact help us change how medicine is practiced to provide incentives for value, medical value, rather than just volume.
Thank you, gentleman from Oregon. Gentleman from Colorado. Now, may I inquire how much time we have?
The gentleman has 3 minutes remaining.
All right. Now let me just ask the gentleman from North Carolina, would you like to make any closing remarks and then yield to the gentleman from Colorado?
I thank the gentleman, and I'd like to just underscore what our colleague from Oregon has just said. There's so much concern, obviously, for good reason, about the future of Medicare. The most conservative estimate I've seen is that health care reform extends the fiscal solvency of Medicare by 8 years, and some estimates are much more than that. And so to simply throw that overboard, as well as to say, well, this donut hole, these thousands of dollars that senior citizens are paying full freight on for medicines they simply must have, this gap in coverage. What insurance policy any of us know about would have that kind of gap in coverage? It's ridiculous. And we're finally fixing it. As the gentleman from Colorado said, $250 payments this year. I mean, I guess this raises the question whether even that might be taken back. But in future years, we're going to close that donut hole. We're going to extend the solvency of Medicare. Anybody concerned about the health care for this country's senior citizens simply has to be very, very alarmed at what's going on in this House right now.
Thank you. Thank you, gentleman from North Carolina. I'll yield for the final word from the gentleman from Colorado.
Sure, and I appreciate my friends. Instead of amending or repairing, as Mr. Price from North Carolina described it, they want to repeal, just take it away. Well, they're taking away freedoms. They're taking away the freedom from discrimination for prior illnesses, like my daughter with epilepsy, like the daughter who had Crohn's disease, or the friend at the gas station, taking away the freedom from cancellation because you get sick, you don't lose your insurance, taking away the freedom to move jobs. So you're not stuck in a job. You can move jobs and not fear losing your insurance. I mean, they're taking away a lot, and maybe this $250 that went to the seniors. It's a radical move to take these freedoms away, and I hope they think twice and don't vote to repeal. With that, I'd yield back to my friend from Vermont for his final remarks.
Well, I thank my colleagues for being here. Bottom line, anytime we pass a major piece of legislation, we should have the humility to acknowledge it can be improved. And we all do. We can make it better. We can make it stronger. But to totally destroy things that we have been fighting for decades to achieve on behalf of the American people, help for seniors with their prescription drugs, extending the financial viability of Medicare, changing and encouraging a new way of delivering healthcare services, moving away from fee-for-service, volume-driven, to patient-centered, performance-based care. And then insurance reforms that puts the patients in charge, that acknowledges that we're all in it together, and takes away the absolute unilateral power of for-profit insurance companies to decide whether your daughter or mine
Gentleman's time has
gets
expired.
health care. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand in recess subject to the call of the Chair.
A first for the U.S. House today, as the entire U.S. Constitution was read aloud on the floor. Members later voted to